Hello, welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. We are doing a second episode now with FROSKR. Kati McCartney is back on the show. She is the president of FROSKR, which is a division of BestTech Canada Limited. Kati, welcome to the show. Great to have you back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
We didn't get to sneak you beer before the episode. I know you wanted that, so our apologies.
I think we'll survive.
Yeah. Next year, we'll have a six-pack.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, exactly. So since this last episode that we did, it's a year ago now from PDAC last year, is, I guess, let's first summarize FROSKR as a company, because it's obviously going to be new viewers. So give us that little just bird's eye summary of the company.
Sure. So we're an environmental consulting company. We have proprietary technology. We largely work with mining, but also heavy industry, municipal projects, and really are trying to facilitate responsible, sustainable operations to help our clients, who are really our partners, be proactive in their approach to how they interact with the environment, whether they're in mining or construction or manufacturing, whatever they do to reduce their footprint or their impact on the environment and be their partners in their role in meeting those goals that they have.
I like to kind of, when we're doing these episodes, jump back because it sort of gives context to the viewer. So where did the company start off? What was the initial delivery it was giving, and how has it sort of evolved?
It depends how far back you want to go. The genesis of FROSKR actually dates back 25 years. So we're a mature startup. FROSKR itself is almost 3 years old. But we were really born out of BestTech, as you mentioned. And BestTech is a traditional engineering firm that started in Sudbury in Northern Ontario and was really born in mining as an automation company and supporting this really boom of mining in the area. And it started with tech. And the tech that we have, we still operate today with two of the largest mining companies in Sudbury and Northern Ontario. And we do real-time environmental monitoring. So we feed their operations real-time data every minute to inform their operations and make sure they meet compliance, maximize production. And that product that we have is called Hilo Enviro. And we've had it, we maintain it, and have operated it now for almost 18 years.
Really?
Really haven't changed it too much. And so that's really what FROSKR was born. That's the foundation of what we do. And really being proactive for our partners in the way they interact with the environment sort of laid this foundation. And so through BestTech Canada Limited, FROSKR was born in Northern Ontario, starting to support mining, and has just really been expanding since, we launched in the middle of the pandemic. That was a ton of fun, great timing to start a company. But because I think of the success and the foundation that we have, the people we've been able to attract and recruit to work for us and support our clients, we've really been expanding not just into mining, but that's still really the primary client that we have.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Savannah Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide, and Corporate Traveler Canada, helping companies travel the globe simpler, faster, and easier. We are heading to events across North America, Africa, and Australia, and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. Fender Dunlop Usflex belts are engineered to withstand the harshest applications, delivering benefits that solve customer problems via superior rip, tear, and impact resistance. Usflex are extremely strong and robust belts that are difficult to destroy, which is important for heavy-duty bulk material handling environments. Made in their very own North American manufacturing facilities, this revolutionary concept in straight warp conveyor belting is up to 3 times more impact resistant versus competitor belting. Usflex users use fewer belts per year, make fewer belt repairs and replacements, reduce or eliminate belt downtime, and improve employee safety. You can visit FenderDunlopAmericas.com to learn more about their premium Usflex conveyor belting. The CIM 2023 Convention and Expo is coming to Montreal from April 30th to May 3rd, so join us in recognizing your peers at the annual CIM Awards Gala. This year is extra special because CIM is celebrating its 125th anniversary. There will be special programming and perks for exhibitors and attendees alike. Registration is now open and tickets sell out fast, so visit CIM.org to register now for short courses and explore sponsorship opportunities. SafeSite has developed a suite of innovative technologies focused on step-change improvements that impacts vertical mining, shaft measurement, underground mapping and survey, mine rescue, and emergency response underground. SafeSite solutions introduce new possibilities in approach and efficiency while keeping every site safer. SafeSite solutions deliver valuable data that can quickly be turned into actionable decision data that allows effective and safe operation. Digital guide alignment will reduce shaft maintenance costs, underground mapping drone technology that removes shadows for 100% accurate reconciliation, and mine rescue drones that extend the reach and range of responders on surface and underground. Visit safesitexp.com for more info.
So at an event like PDAC, now that this, for I think for 99% of us, COVID is over in our minds. Is this event now different? Are you able to now? I mean, it's packed out there. Yeah. It really is. You're going around talking to people. Is it changing the way now, though, that you can now work on business development, getting your message out there, get the conversations going?
Yeah, I think I would do the inverse, actually. What's allowing us to do is see face-to-face the clients that we want to work with. So FROSKR is specialized. We're a smaller team. We are really focused in certain areas of the environment and the subject matter experts that we recruit and work with specifically for that need. But what we're doing, less of just trying to drum up business. There's a lot of competitors in the space that do environmental consulting. You can shop around and find anyone. Where we're different is our value proposition, that we're exclusively trying to find mining clients that really supply materials, metals, minerals for the new green energy economy. So those that are supplying the things we need for batteries or solar photovoltaics. So it's allowing us to find those more junior companies that we want to partner with for long term, making those relationships like really, consulting is not very confusing. There's a subject matter expert when we sell ours to support a client who needs, a permit or support with an environmental complex challenge that they have coming up. And so the person on the end of that support is really critical. So for us, relationships are everything. And finding the right partners in mining is just as important as just growing and sustaining the business. So if we stay, 10, 20, 40 people, whatever that looks like for FROSKR's future, it has to be built on relationships and it has to be with good people and a good culture.
Why that specific focus to those, like the companies that are going to be supplying, solar technology and that? Why that specific focus on those clients?
It's a great question. It's really the reason we work with mining, and we often get, teased for it being environmentalist, and we love mining, and it's not just mining anymore. So what we try and do is differentiate for those that maybe didn't grow up with mining industry or don't know. I certainly didn't. But as soon as I moved to Northern Ontario, I fell in love with mining, and not just mining, like responsible mining. So right now, we understand one of the greatest threats to our generation is climate change, and no one more than environmentalists know that story. So for us, it's finding the solutions and the providers at the very beginning of the supply chain, which are mining companies, understanding that they can take everything out of the ground in a more responsible way to supply a transition to reduce that 1.5 degree centigrade increase that we're seeing and we have to stop. It's just a huge story. And so recruiting people that align, finding partners that are supplying that align with that vision and that mission is just critical for us. So, there are enough consulting companies out there that can help with all complex challenges, finding the right partners that we want to grow with to help solve those complex challenges. That's why we're at mining conferences like PDAC. So
what kind of outlook are you looking for that environmental responsibility? What are you looking for from a client? What sort of messaging or what kind of outlook do they need to have to be a good fit?
That's a really good question, actually. For us, I think they have to not want to just check a box anymore. So environment traditionally was you'd look at a project and, safety had its heyday when it was really not okay anymore and unacceptable to be unsafe in mining. The same is happening with environment. People are focusing more on less just a project and checking a box. It's the right thing to do. Where we are in Northern Ontario especially, mining companies operate meters away from homes, massive smelter complexes, right? And those people go home at the end of the day. Their kids play at the park that's down the street. We all drink the same water. And I think the awareness is getting there for these mining companies. But it's also, if you walk around anywhere here at PDAC, every mouth of every investor has the words ESG in it now. Yeah. So environmental, social, and governance. And so when we find partners that aren't doing that to satisfy just an investor, understand their role in this value chain, that they provide this new green energy economy and the transition that we need away from fossil fuels, that super motivates us. And I think it's critical as a leader of a business to help people understand the why. Like, we come to work for a paycheck, but there's a bigger why at the end of what we do right now. And that is, if you can see that value of what you do, it's not to permit an operation. It's to permit the operation that's going to supply lithium for a battery, for reduction fossil fuel, for your grandkids that you haven't even met yet. So I think that whole vision is really finding companies that aren't just saying it, that are actually walking the walk, or want to, but don't necessarily know how.
Well, I was going to ask that. Yeah, just that distinction of a company who's trying to even start the discussion. We were actually here in the Sophie room, and they were talking a lot about adoption, and they were talking about specifically getting people on board. But you're really talking about getting whole companies on board. How do you start? How do you approach the conversations of companies that want to start they want to start the conversation, but they're not at implementation stage? They're not coming to you and saying, we want to do this. This is our plan. They're just sort of poking around. How does that sort of fit in?
I think, there's so many avenues to go with the whole word of sustainable mining. I mean, whether you're talking about using lower footprint from energy, from your battery electric vehicles, from less water, just being a better corporate citizen. So all the pieces that play into it. There are lots of ways companies can approach all the E, the S, and the G of what they do. Yeah. What I think it boils down to is just doing it more sustainably. So are you pulling out tonnages of ore in a more sustainable way? Did you use less water? Is it less GHG intensive? Are you treating your employees better? Do you have transparency in how you operate? And you don't have to check all the boxes, but to try and start to approach them. And it can be simple. So sometimes we just work with clients to think about pathways to decarbonization. So how do you even start? Do you change light bulbs? Do you switch your fleet for battery electric? Right. Do you try and look at water reducing technologies? And it can be overwhelming. And I think our biggest message is just to start somewhere, right? Because otherwise it's analysis paralysis and you just won't. Yeah. So to have those conversations to say, like, we just need to get going. So where can we start? But really what's cool about mining, and those that aren't really from the mining industry, you have to think about the future before you even start the present. So a lot of work with folks like Adam that we have on our staff is talking about closure planning before there's even rocks coming out of the ground. Right. And so you have to think about that. And we learn that a lot from our Indigenous partners. We do a lot of work authentically with Indigenous communities, especially in Northern Ontario, meaningfully, respectfully on shared land. And one of the biggest lessons they teach us is planning for 7 generations. And mining is a very similar pathway, right? Plan before you even start operating, that you're going to reclaim the space to the same way. So I think that's, it's a long-winded answer, but it really is about thinking about better ways and differentiating between mining and responsible mining and always improving. It should not stop.
Your trusted partner of choice, BestTech Engineering, is excited to announce that they have acquired Spencer Engineering. This allows BestTech to add mine hoist expertise to their existing suite of services, including mining, power, electrical, instrumentation and automation, mechanical, and structural divisions. This diversification will offer clients the highest level of service and value for their projects. Don't miss out on this exciting new chapter of engineering excellence. Reach out today at besttech@besttech.com to learn how BestTech can help you. DMF Filtration is the ideal partner in solid liquid separation. Headquarter and manufacturing facilities in Italy with over 6,000 installations all over the world, DMF Filtration takes you beyond the boundaries of innovation thanks to the wide range of filter press models and thickeners available within the product portfolio. The launch of Domino, the largest filter press in the world, and AIDA, the system tutor providing real-time connection with the company, are only the latest achievements for this group, which is committed to continuous improvement. You can visit them at dmffiltration.com to learn more. Introducing the SolarSet Fold. The new foldable frame solar system brings power to your residential and commercial property and can be shipped worldwide. Like all SolarSet products, the SolarSet Fold comes turnkey, pre-assembled, and is easily transported and installed. Learn more about SolarSet Fold and their full line of amazing solar systems at solarset.com.
And what I was wondering, and this is a very loaded question. I obviously don't expect you to have the whole answer for it, but what do you think is? I'm actually going to go specific to Canada. Well, let's go like Canada. US, Australia, Chile, these leading countries in mining. What do you see as the bare minimum is their responsibility in the ESG space? And then what do you think is the extreme version where they can still operate as a company?
Oh boy, that is loaded. I think so. When you talk about E, S, and G, we used to talk about them in isolation. And I actually think the pandemic really accelerated that chat. We started doing things differently that we will never return to doing again, right? Like using a drone or working remotely. People aren't commuting as much. And I think that accelerated technology to a point where we weren't necessarily sure we could get to. So a lot of these companies would say, oh yes, we're net zero by 2050, right? That's everybody's going to talk around that on PDAC. We're net zero by blah, 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 blah. And everyone kind of went, oh, that's so aspirational. Like that can't really be. But the pandemic accelerated so much of how we work together, technology, and how we just execute things that I think those are less aspirational and more transformational. Like they're coming faster than we thought they were. And so the bare minimum is actually not just talking about E, not just talking about the S, which is the social and how we treat employees in lower socioeconomic kind of regions. But the G is the critical, like being more transparent with investors, with stakeholders, that you're actually accountable for the E and the S all together. And so in areas, like you said, that don't really have that bar set or that minimum threshold, aren't really focusing on all three. They might be focusing on one bare minimum. And so part of what we love to do is advocate as environmentalists for mining, responsible mining. And especially if you look to Northern Ontario, where we largely operate and most of our clients are, actually, I think right now all of our clients are in Northern Ontario. And we're super proud of that, because what they are able to do in that region is demonstrate reclamation in mass scale, is demonstrate, really high paid jobs, variety of jobs and careers for folks in mining, and true governance, to be proud about that and be transparent about the work that they're doing and being able to promote it and people to understand. So if you go to somewhere like Northern Ontario, people embrace mining very differently than they might. And what it started now is us to have the ability to think about even manufacturing. So less about sourcing, where price might be better because the E, the S, or the G might not all be met, but one is the price point is lower to get that commodity, like lithium, let's say. But now understanding somewhere like Sudbury or Northern Ontario, where you can source the lithium, I think companies now realizing they can charge a premium because it's a more environmentally friendly product and it's embraced. And so now we're considering a full supply chain and value chain to transition to a green economy in a location that we might not have thought of in the past. So.
Do you think there's ever a time, there was recently a Rogan episode where he had someone come on from, now I'm forgetting the country. It was a country in Africa, and I'm drawing a blank on it, from the Congo. And it wasn't good. It was not good. What was happening over there with the treatment of human beings. Do you think that the mining industry can get to a point, and I've sort of been waiting to even bring this topic up for the right person, because you do hundreds of these episodes and there's the right person for the right question. Do you think there can be a day in mining where it truly is a phone, one phone is ethically sourced? That part of who they are, that how we're getting these products is sourced from places like Northern Ontario, and it should be from Africa, but it should be done responsibly and right. Do you think mining can get to that point?
100%. I wouldn't be in it if I didn't. Like we honestly advocate for our love of responsible mining, and there's a reason why we're starting a company in this space that's super competitive. And I think what is helping are people to see the connection. So I also like to be clear that although we love mining, responsible mining, we advocate for it, they really did make their own bed. And those stories from the Congo and the stories of tailings dam breaches, and if you're not really raised with mining as an industry or around it, those are your media stories, and they sell, and you associate with those stories, and that's the environmental impact or the social impact, or the really shitty sorry.
No, that's okay.
Really poor governance, really poor governance practices that you see at some of those really huge companies. And there's a lot of, the conspiracy from shareholders and boards, really poor authenticity or poor treatment of local Indigenous communities. So those stories are there. So mining, they have a communication problem, I think. But I don't think it's far away where we can say, I'm proud to buy a cell phone that has been sourced from, and has a lower carbon footprint because it was sourced from and manufactured closer to the source for that reason. And I think it's no secret that there's folks like the Elon Musks of the world buying nickel companies.
They are, yeah.
Like, this is not far away.
Yeah.
But I do believe that that's where you can get, as a company, slip quickly to just focus on the E or just focus on the S.
Yeah.
You have to treat them interconnectedly.
So are you when you're talking to companies, are you helping pull all three of those together for them? Are you going as deep as that?
I think we're really granular. Sometimes they're just asking us to help with a permit to take water, right? I mean, we might,
I like how I zoom way out globally for you.
So, I mean, there's really a value. But what's cool is, I think, when we're, a really specialized team who are subject matter experts and more experts in their field with a longer tenure, they understand that connection. So they understand that, it might just be a permit for this one project, but that client's going to be, the sustainability VP for this junior company for a long time that is going to set these targets that used to feel aspirational, but we play a small part in helping it become transformational and then eventually foundational. Like, it is now the foundation and baseline for them to just expect that these are things they have to plan for. And, our least favorite, one of our favorite sayings is we're proactive environmental partners. And that comes back to our real-time technology, right? We try and prevent it from happening before there's a spill or an exceedance or, and in some cases, it's more just, oh, shoot, I need a permit. Well, the government might take 12 months for that. And now we've slowed down. We've lost production. So what we're trying to do is get in with partners for a longer term tenure to say, help us prevent some of those things from happening. So you maximize production. You meet the demand that's really knocking at your doorstep right now. Like, you have to figure out how to ramp up production, have meaningful careers. Let us help you with the proactive environmental side of things. And it can be just as simple as a permit or taking some water to show compliance or a study. And sometimes it's a bigger job. Sometimes it's communicating their environmental footprint, which is a very scientific carbon-based calculation and then translating it for them.
So is that people actually out in the field then? You're actually going and taking samples and things?
We might do calculations. We might, we have air quality engineers who do modeling. So actually input models of what the impact of their operations might look like. Sometimes we're doing reclamation or closure planning amendments to, their operations have changed since the start of how they opened, and now they're changing. So what does that mean from a closure perspective? Like, what are they liable for? Sometimes it's as simple as a spill on a highway, and we're getting called to help find, the samples around the spill to mitigate that it's really seeped into anywhere. So it's really on the ground stuff, some paper-based, some modeling, and sometimes it's really high level translating their whole ESG targets, goals, and helping with the G part of it, which is the accountability or the transparency and the reporting of it in terms that people can digest.
Yeah. Do you, when I said, when I asked if you thought mining could get there, like the phone example, ethically sourced, those types of things, you said you wouldn't do it if you didn't believe that it could. So through this journey of coming into the mining industry, sort of falling in love with it, running a company within it, all these sorts of things. Has there been sort of a high and a low? Has there been a moment you stood out and you went, this is worth doing. This is worth, I mean, when you put your time into something, you're in a sense giving your life to it. You are in some ways, professionally for sure. Has there been a point where you were discouraged and thinking, can change happen? And has there been a high where you go, no, this is worth sticking with?
Holy smokes, great questions. Low point, I think I used to work for a major mining company, and watching change be slow, it's discouraging. Watching, really, really good people who want to do more than just check the environmental box, maybe go above and beyond, but being told like, okay, what's the payback, right?
Right.
I've seen that firsthand. But now on the flip, that that challenge is our opportunity, because now we're the consultant. So we know what that was like. So we can make the business case differently and help them and say, like, we got you. I understand what you're trying to do. And
encourage that person that's maybe hasn't been heard before. You can kind of give them a voice.
And come full circle, actually. Like we're now hiring folks like that really do feel like they can do more, maybe feel bogged down. And then to your other point, that's probably a low one, but I'll take it as a challenge and opportunity. And then a high point, like when I became a mom, there is no bigger responsibility than making sure she has, like our daughter has something to grow up in that's a clean lake, that, we're doing better than just making a bunch of batteries, but no idea how we're going to recycle them. Like there is this feeling that you didn't have before, that you are accountable to something bigger than yourself. And there's no better feeling than being a parent.
So that really, so in your professional life, that really kind of drove you forward?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sure there must have been at least a year or two where the balance of it was a little bit challenging.
the pandemic, just ask anyone that had a kid at home during the pandemic. I think of folks that were teachers during the pandemic. But our team had this view of, maybe mid-career, the folks that we have are around my age that have worked with a big company, worked with other consulting companies, maybe never worked in environmental consulting, but are environmentalists. And they all, really wanted the balance of their career to be meaningful, fun, but it's a grind every day, whether it was pandemic or not. Every day we're going, do we take this proposal? Do we approach it this way? Is this the right kind of client? Is this the right project for us? Do we hire this person or not? So it's exhausting. And so it is a challenge every day. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. And when we get to see, one of our teammates crush a project, make that client, meet their goal that they wanted to, it's an easy win. Like then it's like, I don't know, if you play golf, it's the same way. Like
I play it badly,
65 bad shots, one good one. You're like, when am I playing again? And it feels almost the same.
I gave up
work.
Actually, but I actually gave up on golf.
True to form, I'm in it for the beer, but whatever. But it feels the same way. Like, one good shot, one good project, watching one of our teammates in a meeting talk to a client about a project they executed. Like I want to have one of those number one phone fingers behind me, like you're number one. Like it's so proud and helping a client become more sustainable. It's like little wins. So
I just want to, I'm gonna just a couple more questions. I want to ask one, it's alluding back to motherhood, so it's a little bit personal, but not too crazy, I don't think. But in your job, balancing that, there's a lot of people. I don't know what the numbers are, but there's a lot more men here than the women at PDAC. There
that
just
is an understatement.
I was going to say, should I say 99%? Because that might not be right accurate. But really simple question. How do you find that balance? Because we've talked a couple of times now, you're clearly passionate about the industry. You're obviously passionate about being a mother. And how do you navigate that? Because a president of a company, I mean, you have a huge role. So just how do you, just personally, sort of approach that?
Well, okay, so there's two things. One is this question used to infuriate me because I would get asked a lot because I look young, have a kid. And
by the way, I've never actually, I've asked that question because you brought up motherhood. So I usually don't, but I thought this is someone.
But it is like, I used to get mad because I used to think like, God, no one would ask my male counterpart the same question. Then I thought, no, because this is a platform. So I started to get less mad and start thinking about gender neutral. There are just buckets. So your life has buckets. I approach it that way. They can't all be full at the same time. And I used to get, the feeling that male counterparts would often say things like, well, who's watching your kid? Did you ask John who's watching his kid? Probably his wife or his partner or daycare. And why does it matter? And so I think that there's still a huge amount of work to do for folks to see a parity in gender in leadership roles. They are grossly underrepresented in mining. I'm actually giving a talk Wednesday morning for women in mining in Sudbury especially. But I do think that the advice, and I mean, we have a young staff member who's trying to start her family also. And I try and say that there are buckets and you can't have them all full. So your work bucket might be very full one week. Your personal workout bucket maybe is taking a hit, or your social bucket or relationship bucket. I think the piece to try and have most of it, not all, is to have less buckets. And I'm thinking about my teammates are going to laugh when I say that, because I have a lot of buckets. Right. They're not all full, but you're not really doing yourself any favors. So at certain times in our life, like the childhood or motherhood bucket needs more attention. And so I rely heavily on a super strong team that we have that takes that for us during that week when, she's sick and I can't take a meeting. Well, that's why we have awesome people on our team. So I don't actually have to be there all the time, and vice versa. And then I think in other areas, it's to prioritize that bucket if it gets low and say, this bucket needs my attention this week. It's been low for too long. Yeah. Or this bucket, I can't do anymore. Like, volunteer or something else you might be doing, or that bucket needs a timeout for a little bit because these ones really need me. So that's how I usually approach it. And I think for younger women, especially as they come up in their career, some of the best advice I also got was to just not make decisions until they came up. So one of the questions I had when we founded FROSKR, my daughter was 3, and not once did anyone ask me like, well, you're going to have another one, or how's that going to look for you? That wasn't a consideration because it's irrelevant, because the beat goes on and you will figure it out. But there are a number, especially of young women, who will take themselves out of the game. Yeah. Right. Who might make a decision before they actually have a decision to make. Do you think,
do you have a perception that would tilt towards employers not showcasing that they don't have to, or do you think that's a preconceived thought?
I think it's our own as a gender. I think we take ourselves out of the game quick because we think, I don't know if I can fill all those buckets, right? I don't know if I can help the clients and grow my team and be a good leader and a good wife and a friend and all of that. So we might say like, I actually don't know, but what if you can't have a second or a third child or any children, and you've made a call to take yourself out of the game before it's actually a decision to make. So I think that's the case. And then it's adjusting your buckets. It's about finding, really good teammates like Adam in the room and a lot of our team that help you and know like I need to step up today, and we support each other that way. And it's less hierarchical and more like a band. So right now we need the drummer to have a solo, and everybody else can take a back seat right now. So I think that's the most critical: strong team, strong people around you, and less buckets.
Less
buckets to fill.
And then on the forward-looking side for FROSKR, over the next what is sort of your vision for the next 2 to 3 years?
So we really are about culture. And so if you ask us, I mean, we have really important meetings often over, an alcoholic beverage, sometimes a percentage-based beverage. But we check in with each other every couple weeks. It's really important that culture grows. And so in consulting, there are 2 ways to scale. You can scale by getting projects and then hiring who's available to execute the projects, or you can hire from the people and then grow their pipeline with projects. So it's a chicken and an egg on how we scale. But for us, it's not even a question. It's about the right people, because that dynamic changes. One new player in a soccer team or a band changes the whole dynamic.
It really does, especially when on a smaller team. It's like it's a whole ripple.
And our clients, right? So we can now offer a new skill set. So finding that new person that's going to be a member of FROSKR is mission critical for us. And it might be 2 in a year or 3 or none. And it will depend also on what clients need. So as we form these long-term relationships with clients who really align with us, it's to find the person that's going to help them with their challenges that meets and fits our team. And people are everything. Like I said before, consulting is not complicated. It's subject matter experts lending their brain. So it's really critical who that person is, that is the brain attached to the thing we're delivering for a client or supporting them through. So the next 2 to 3 years, it's about the people. Finding those clients that we want to form long-term relationships with and help them meet their goals. And so, people often ask, like, where do you see yourself? And it's really, I think, having the same feeling. If we can keep whatever we have built and this fire we've kind of started, that's really it. And it can stay small forever. It can stay specialized for a long time. With clients we really get excited to work with, then that's FROSKR, helping mining navigate those challenges.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining the episode. And I certainly hope this is not the last one because it's nice in person too, because you can actually, we did that last one remote, during COVID. We had one person here and I think you were staring at a phone. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad we could do this and thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, everybody, that's another episode of Mining Now. Please keep watching. Of course, we'll have links to FROSKR and Katie's LinkedIn and everything in the description below, or if you're seeing this on LinkedIn or something, you just click the little blue handles and everything. So thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Mining Now.